off your engine!
Rich says, aren't you afraid of being sued by Dodge, GM, or VW for being negative about these companies all the time? How can they sue me for telling the truth? I've been working on cars for 52 years, and my mind still works. I remember Dodges I worked on in the 1960s. I can tell them probably more history of their own vehicles than they'd know if they took me to court. I would make a mockery of them if they did. It would be fun to go to court and say, you guys did this, you did that, you did this, and you screwed up on this. They would never want to take me to court. I would have a field day. I work on them. I see what's wrong. I see the mistakes that they make, and I tell people about it. You know, I'm not worried at all. Because what are they going to do? Sue me for telling the truth? And what good would it do them, anyways? What plus side would they have? It would get media coverage. YouTubers get sued by GM, and then I would start finding even more problems they have and make even more videos about the problems. I'd make historical videos about every problem they made, and that could take years in the case of those companies. I would never run out of subject matters. You might get bored with it, though, repeating all the mistakes that they made. I just do the highlights now, you know. Well, it looks like Jaguar Land Rover, you know, it's one company, is in deep trouble. They're going to probably be cutting a bunch of their vehicles out, not building them anymore. They're already laying off 1,100 jobs. I mean, they've been in trouble anyways. If you do a little bit of history, Indians at Tata bought Jaguar. They're trying to make it come back, and for a short period of time, Jaguar and Land Rover, they bought them both. We're starting to turn around. The Indians put billions into it, and they were starting to make a profit, but then the bottom fell out. Now the Chinese own a percentage of it. They're in deep trouble. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. The quality of those things has been garbage for quite some time. I'm a mechanic. I work on these things. I see people buy them, and the worst thing in the world that somebody could possibly do is buy a used Jaguar or Land Rover with higher mileage. They think, what a deal. I only had to pay $6,000. Well, the reason you paid that is because it's going to cost you $6,000 a week to fix the things. They are endless money pits, and it didn't get any better. And now a bunch of them are made in China. Who knows what kind of quality is coming out of that? They're just banking on a name. I mean, I did a little research the other day. It turns out there's other companies in China that are making SUVs that are sort of equivalent to the Jaguar new SUVs that they're selling, and they're still trying to sell the Jaguar ones for like 40 grand, but these other companies in China are making equivalent ones, and those things are going for like 20 grand. Why would you pay twice as much for a vehicle that's made in the same country that's pretty much the same thing, except it doesn't say Jaguar? You could do like some of my customers have. They just buy Jaguar or Mercedes emblems and they stick them on whatever car they want. And of course, the Jaguar executives put a spin on it, and I quote, "It is a very renowned brand, yet in some markets it's not as strong as it ought to be." It may be renowned, but in most places it's renowned for making crappy vehicles that fall apart all the time and cost a fortune to repair and have horrendously low resale values because of that. So let's get real, people. Maybe they should just stop making them all. Cut all of them. Then they won't have any problems. Don't get rid of some of the models. Get rid of them all. Hyundai announced that the production of their Hyundai Palisade has come to a screeching halt because one of their parts suppliers has shut down production. Now, they stopped the production on June 15th. One of the employees of a company that makes parts for them passed away from 19, and then they're shutting the thing down. The whole world's going this way where one company buys parts from all over the place. It's definitely going to this world. They now call them world cars. Everything's got to have a name these days, right? But the Japanese and the Asians were the first ones to really do that heavy duty. Even Toyota and Honda, they didn't make many of the parts of their cars. They have various different Japanese factories building parts for them, and then they make the whole car in their own factories. They made their own engines and transmissions and stuff, but a lot of the other parts came from someplace else, even decades ago. It's kind of interesting that the Koreans are the first ones that have to stop producing a car because one of their subcontractors is shutting down. They can't build the car if they don't have all the parts to put it together. And of course, it's going to have a spin along. So far, the latest estimates is that sales of cars in the United States will be off by a couple million units. That means they're going to sell 2 million less cars than they did the previous year, and I would be surprised if it's a lot less than that. They're not even taking into consideration the millions of people that don't have jobs now. They don't have a job. You're not going to go out and buy another car, regardless of this promise of the people say, well, we'll make the first 3 payments are free, blah, blah, blah. You know, BS. They're just putting them on the back end. You're not going to save any money. They're just saying you don't have to pay for 90 days, but then, of course, you're going to have to pay it all, plus interest later on. on. Always read the fine print when you look at stuff like that, you know? Because when people promise you something for nothing, believe me, you're not getting something for nothing. They're getting everything they wanted. They might just be getting it a little bit later down the line. Johnny Storr says, Scotty, I'm looking at an old Doctor's 2.5 liter 2016 Subaru Outback, 50,000 miles, 7 oil changes in that time. Doctor drove it mainly on the highway, test drove it, it looked clean and shifted nice. All right, highway miles equivalent to 10% city miles, so if it was mainly on a highway, that's like having 5,000 miles on that thing. Go ahead and buy it. Don't pay too much. It still is an old Subaru. They're not worth all that much money. So, see how low you can get it for and go ahead and buy it. If he's a doctor, he's got plenty of money, and he doesn't need to try to squeeze as much as he can. If he wants too much, walk. They're not worth all that much money used. George Drake says, Scotty, what do you think of the Ford 2.7 twin turbo in the F-150? Is it a good motor? Well, I don't like it because I do not like two turbochargers and a gasoline direct engine hooked up to any car. They tend towards more wear of the engine. They don't last as long. They have more pressure inside. Yes, you get more horsepower out of a smaller engine, but I mean, if I was going to get F-150, I'd get a plain old V8. I like those V8s. Those engines can run and you take care of them. The smaller the engines are, the more they're strained and the faster they're going to wear out. And I've seen it my own customers. The V8s, no problems, go fine. The 6s and some of them even, they're putting 4s in some of them. I had an Explorer the other day that had the 4-cylinder and it was falling apart with 90,000 miles on it. Nadolu says, say Scotty, I bought a used Honda CR-V 97 with 100,000 miles. I'm in Africa where roads are bad. Is it a good buy? You didn't say what you paid for it. If it's a good buy or not, depends on how much money you paid for it. Those are excellent vehicles. They can last a long time. And the CR-V is high up that it should be able to take the rides. But you realize that's a 23-year-old vehicle, too. Odds are a lot of the stuff's probably worn out. You'll probably have to put struts and shocks in it and check all that out. But overall, they're excellent vehicles. I have a customer with one, same year, and she's got 320,000 miles. It's still running strong. It bounces around a lot because she's too cheap to put new shocks and struts on it, but it still runs pretty good. Lacamone 31 says, Scotty, my '07 Ford Focus makes a grinding, rubbing sound when I tap the brakes. The pads and rotors are new. Well, you hear a grinding sound when you're stepping the brakes. Something's wrong. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the brake system. When you step on the brakes, that starts to strain the suspension system. Let's say you got a worn strut mount. That can make a noise. You've got a brake dust shield. The inside is a little thin dust shield. Sometimes they get bent, and then when you hit the brakes, they grind and rub against it. Check that, too. If it's definitely grinding and rubbing, something's rubbing, and you have to check it out. Now, let's say you can't find anything wrong. If you have crappy brake pads that are worn, they can grind. Some modern pads have a coating on them when they're new. When the coating wears off, sometimes they make horrible grinding noises because they're cheaply made pads. So if you can't find anything wrong, heck, buy a set of Akebono, A-K-E-B-O-N-O. Brake pads, put them on, and the grinding will probably go away because they're really well-made pads. The material is made correctly, and they don't grind even when they're worn. Stephen Cristol says, what's your opinion on a 2020 Silverado? Well, it's a new vehicle, but knowing Silverados in the past, not that much. The last decent Silverado I worked on was in 1999, and the guy still has it. He got 200,000 miles, still runs good. The new ones, I see them, they're a year old, the AC's broken. The rear ends go out. I've seen them have all kinds of problems. It's just the quality of GM has gone and gone and gone and left the building. I would not buy one. I wouldn't waste that kind of money on a vehicle. 2020, it's new, but from my experience, they haven't improved any of the problems that they had in the first place. And by all means, don't buy one of them that has that stupid 4-cylinder engines in their disaster areas. Mariel Fernandez says, what year for a CR-V or RAV4 for a first car for the teenager? Any year that you can afford, because realize they'll probably destroy the car. Both of my sons totaled their first cars that I bought for them. So don't put too much thought into it. They'll probably end up destroying the car anyway. What you want to do is see what kind of money do you have and what can you purchase with that amount of money. Of course, have a mechanic check it out before you buy it, but depends on what you want to spend. You know, if you're only going to spend $2,000-$3,000, you're just going to have to look for old ones and hope a mechanic okays them. They're good vehicles anyway, but depends on how much money you want to spend. And my advice is don't spend too much because odds are they're going to wreck their first cars. Jesse Archer says, hey, I got overheating problem in my 2014 Chrysler 300 3.6. I've replaced everything but radiator hose and expansion tank. Well, I doubt that you've replaced everything. To begin with, those are notorious for blowing head gaskets. The head gasket could be blowing. I have a video how to tell if your head gasket's blowing. Watch it. You can buy the test kit that's a little tank that you pour a blue liquid in and take the radiator cap off when it's cool, stick it there and watch it. And if the blue liquid turns yellow, it means you got a blown head gasket. gasket. Do that first, because odds are that's what the problem is. But you can get so many problems. You can get a broken water pump. You can get a cooling fan that doesn't work. You can have a radiator that, even though it looks good because it's plastic and aluminum, the inside aluminum can corrode bad enough that it won't dissipate heat right. So there's a lot of reasons they can overheat, but check the head gasket first. Very common problem with those cars. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.